we are just thrilled to be showing Breathe tonight with Andrew Garfield in person. And this night is really about this incredible work in this sublime film. Of course, it's always dangerous, certainly for me, let alone who's not involved in the film, to say too much about the film. So I'll simply say that I just love it.
I think that's reasonable. We agree on a lot of things.
We better after 40 years.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. The other thing we were noticing was that we were getting an awful lot of offers of people today to volunteer from people of all ages. And, you know, we've been trying to get to be very much more intergenerational at the Mill Valley Film Festival and you know, attract a younger audience. So it was great to know that there were a lot of people who were actually coming and really wanting to volunteer tonight in this theatre.
Who we have never seen before.
Correct. But
Yes.
it's great to attract the younger generation, especially when it's through the work of an actor who is one of the best of his generation.
Yes, in addition to this being, of course, the premiere of Breathe, we'll have an opportunity to discuss a little bit about Andrew's other work as well. But in the meantime, why don't we just bring Andrew Garfield to the stage of the Rafael.
Welcome.
Hello, my goodness, what a lovely introduction. Thank you so, so much. I feel so grateful to be here. This is a very soulful theatre. Upon stepping over the threshold, I could feel it. And a very soulful festival, and congratulations on the 40th year. And I feel very privileged to be a part of it. And feeling a heavy heart, of course, for Northern California. And it does seem like I'm imagining everyone in this room has been either directly or indirectly affected through a friend or a family member. So, yeah, I'm heartbroken with you, and I feel like Northern California is a spiritual home for me, even though my accent belies that slightly. And I feel very kind of heart-warmed by being able to present this film to you in this particular moment. We can all gather in a room together as a community, and because I think if this film is nothing else, it's incredibly life-affirming, and I hope that it's a reminder that that in order to get through those incredibly difficult, you know, slings and arrows of outrageous fortune that the universe throws at us all, the human beings, whether it's collectively or individually, I hope this film can remind us that it's community, it's love, it's strength, family and friends, and that spark in the human spirit that wants to be here, very much wants to be alive and be here. So, I really, really hope you enjoyed the film, and I'm very, very proud to present it to you, and I'll see you afterwards for a little chat. Thank you, thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to welcome back to the stage of the Rafael, Andrew Garfield.
Andrew.
Hi.
Hello. So,
What are these chairs for?
they're for you to sit on, but you can't. No. I'm not going to sit down. You're going to sit down. Just in a minute. Give me a moment here. No. Don't sit down yet. Okay. Because I have a little something for you.
Oh, no.
Our spotlight programs give us the opportunity to honor somebody at a particular point in their career, rather than doing, you know, a lifetime achievement. But really, when we look at a particular point in someone's work, you can't really help but look at also everything that's gone before. And I think that you gave us a little insight when you spoke at the beginning of the show, into the connective tissue that runs through a lot of your work. So whether you're in Hacksaw Ridge or whether you're playing a clone, or whether you have a small part in Doctor Who, or a Social Network, or Angels in America. And can I just say, it's so audacious for the National Theatre to be doing this American classic, and I'm so glad it's coming to New York. I think as you talked about soulfulness, you let us know what is the core heartbeat of your work, and it's the soul that you put into it. Thank you for that, and thank you for this extraordinary performance. And it's my great honor to give you the Mill Valley Film Festival Award.
It's very, very lovely of you to say all that. Thank you. Beautiful.
Yeah. This is a sculpture by Alice Corning, who's a Mill Valley-based sculptor. Each one of them is cast in bronze and numbered, and this one is yours.
Gorgeous.
It's got your number on it.
Very, very beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Really, thank you so much. Come here.
And I will let you two
Okay.
converse.
Thank you. It means a great deal. I feel, well, just before we talk, I'd like to just say it's ridiculous that I get to be an actor. And, just to do such a job, that such a thing is a job in the first place. And that I get to not only make a living from it, but then I get to be a part of stories that I think the world needs. I don't know if it gets better than that. If it does, I think I'd explode. So, and then to be honored in that way, that becomes a bit too much, and I have to kind of I have to pretend this isn't mine. So, thank you, but no, thank you. So anyway, no, I feel very, very humbled. Thank you all for the warm reception. It's wonderful. Thank you.
Well, one more time, thank you for this gift of this beautiful film. And I just have to ask, considering Andy Serkis is the director, was there any special effects here? Or,
The only thing that you may not have, but people may not know, is that the twins is one actor. Yeah.
that's special.
Yeah, that's rather special. Yeah, I think Andy needed to do something that was, otherwise he'd go mad. There was, we were rehearsing in Pinewood, which is a studio lot in London, on the outskirts of London, where we rehearsed for a few weeks, and that's where we had our pre-production office for this film. And Andy happened to also be shooting Star Wars on the stage as the General Snoke, I think his character is called, where he's one of those characters that he plays. And we were working, myself and Claire were working with Diana Cavendish, the real Diana, who's still with us, and we were doing some like a research session together. And Andy came in as the director, as our director, and he was wearing a full black lycra bodysuit. Covered in green dots. His face was covered in green dots, and his body was covered in tennis balls. And he really, it was as if he wore it every day. He was directing us as a CG. It's bizarre. So that was kind of a surreal moment.
Well, yeah, the other question I heard somebody ask you once: who was the greatest superhero you ever played as a character actor? In a sense, Robin really is a superhuman person. But the other part of this film is it's just a tremendous love story, and that's resonated with me as much as the other elements of what a superhuman being Robin was, and what he did not only for himself and his family, but for thousands and tens of thousands, or even more, people who were disabled. Did you feel like a great responsibility, having to play Robin? And and also because, you know, the producer was his son.
Yeah, Jonathan is Robin's son. He is our producer. It's really, and he is business partners with Andy, so it's a real family affair. Yeah, of course, I felt a huge responsibility, and I continue to feel a responsibility because I want as many people to know about this couple and what they did as possible, because I think they do represent the best of us, and it's accessible, it's reachable. It doesn't feel like they were superheroic. It feels like they were just themselves, which is, of course, possible for each and every one of us. And I think what's remarkable about Robin isn't that he had these these big altruistic motives, but in fact, every action that he took sprang from a very, very specific source, which was a simple longing to be as connected to life as possible and as in life as possible, as his authentic self, breaking through the supposed limitations that the paralysis left him with. And I think that is just universally relatable to every single human being. His limitations just happen to be very, very visible, whereas, you know, my limitations are a bit more hidden. I've figured out a way to avoid dealing with them, but they hold me back in ways from my life that I'm constantly striving to break through or break down, and in order to become, you know, that deeper, more authentic self in every single moment of life. And I think, and to connect with as many people as possible. And I think that moves me a lot, the fact that it didn't come from this egotistical place. Mm-hmm. He changed other people's lives because he wanted to change his own. It was really that simple. And it could even be seen as a selfish thing, which, why not? You know, I think that I like that idea that if you're coming from that deep place within yourself, it makes ripples around you more and more and more. And I think with this film, the ripples continue as more people see the story.
And, you know, and back to the element of the love story with Diane, and the beautiful Claire Foy playing Robin's wife. She's amazing, yeah. And I could just feel that connection, you know, with the two of you in this film. I mean, is that something where, you know, I'm not talking about it on a personal basis, but just, you know, the way the two of you interacted, it was so beautiful, and it seemed so natural, even in real. You know, what was that like, you know, working with her? And
yeah, lucky.
And was she a good caretaker?
Oh, she was in many ways. She was a rubbish nurse, but a really good caretaker. Like, she, you know, I would give her a hard time, you know, in scenes where I would really give myself over, like surrender to, and really give her no choice but to make sure I didn't die. And, you know, sometimes the ventilator would come out of my neck, and I'd just be looking at her going, I'm dying, I'm dead. And it's your fault, I'm dying of it. Or like, you know, on that hilarious, ridiculous scene where we're in the van on the plane, and we're shaking about, and she's serving me tea, and I'm like, what the fuck are you doing serving me tea? I don't want tea. She's like, shut up and drink the tea. I'm like, I'm literally falling out of the plane. So no, I gave her a hard time. She would claim I'm a bad patient, but I am sticking by her being a terrible nurse. But to answer your question about that connection, it was just well, I would say it was luck, but also Andy and Jonathan had the foresight of imagining that myself and Claire would have that kind of chemistry, and I had no idea. I'd never seen any of Claire's work. I'd never seen The Crown. I know people hate me for not seeing The Crown. It's like a religion. I don't know. People, it's ridiculous.
You're shunned in London.
Yeah, or everywhere I go, Dubai, you know, anywhere. So it's really odd. So I have to somehow, I will watch The Crown. But I had never seen her work, and she's obviously remarkable. And then I say luck in the sense of, you know, when you meet someone and you go, oh, how do we know each other? We've met somewhere, even though we haven't met on this plane.
Perhaps another life.
Yeah, some soul connection. There is like a soulmate thing that myself and Claire got at very, very quickly. And I think without that, we wouldn't have much of a film.
You know, there's an interesting aspect, and people talk about it. Aaron Sorkin talked about it with his heavy dialogue and how you have to get to the point, the actors, where they're like yo-yo ma. So they know those lines so perfectly that it's like a musician, and they're not really searching for what the next note is.
Right.
Now, in your case, this looks like a really strenuous role, but also in terms of your speech and the patterns, and then mixing it with breaths, because you're not breathing. Well, you're acting, but there's a machine there that's making noise, and you have to compensate for that when you talk, and not, and additionally, dealing with a different kind of voice. That must have been incredibly difficult to do.
I think if I could say any part of it was difficult, which I would hesitate to do, and because I don't like complaining about being so lucky. The one thing that I found really scary and difficult to get right was the voice and the as you said, the rhythm of breath. And again, I like that yo-yo ma thing. It's practice, isn't it? And I had 2 months to practice so that I could just be present in the scene. So it became second nature by the time I got on set. Like, that was this unnatural, consistent rhythm that I was breathing in constantly. And Robin himself actually figured out a way of using the ventilator like a musical instrument, in the sense that when he first started speaking on the ventilator, he would begin a sentence and get halfway through it, and he would have to pause because the breath interrupted him. And within that pause, usually the person he was speaking to would finish his sentence for him, and he got very fucking annoyed by that. So he devised a way to get halfway through the sentence, but end on a word that would befuddle people. And they would go, well, they would try and figure out what the rest, but he would just be waiting and watching, going, fuck you, you're not finishing this fucking for me. And then the next breath would come in, and he would very lyrically figure out getting through the rest of his thought. It was all about control and autonomy and being self-authorized, and even if he didn't feel in control, he wanted the semblance of control. In the same way, and I know I'm skipping ahead a little bit, but in the same way of how he chose to die, in the same way that he chose to live. He chose to die in a peaceful way with grace, and there was no hesitation, as far as I understood. There was the only hesitation was he needed to make sure he had permission from his wife and his son, and that they were fully on board. But he had really made the choice. I mean, as you can see in the film, it's clear. Either he can choke on his own blood in the middle of the night and traumatize his wife and child for the rest of their lives, potentially, or he could say goodbye to everyone, have a party, have a sing, and have a good old cry and kiss everyone goodbye, and then very peacefully. I mean, there is no choice, really, as far as I'm concerned. And he really shook all that puritanical Christian stuff after the polio hit. He was a really God-fearing man. He was very religious. He even converted a lot of his army mates. He was a captain in the army, and he was so impassioned about Christianity that he converted a lot of friends when he was younger. But then he just renounced God. But then I would argue he became far more spiritual as after the polio.
There was an interesting thing that his son had said about my childhood was one of laughter and adventure, because doing anything with my father was an adventure. It was also a little risky. And we certainly got that sense from it. But did Jonathan tell you other things that were left out of the story in terms of what kind of life he led and as growing up with a father who was handicapped, but in one way, but in the other way lived life, more than anyone else?
That's it. It's all on there. I mean, there's a few things that they couldn't put in for time, but those are the main events. The only thing that's not true is the dog didn't in fact pull the cord out, but Jonathan did himself. But we couldn't get the fucking child to do it. Lovely child. Lovely little boy. Just hadn't had much acting experience, I suppose. No, I mean, it was a kid, and like he didn't want to be there. He just wanted to. And there's a ridiculous story. He was terrified of me. This kid, I'm sitting there, just stock still, trying, with these big false teeth, just trying to make him feel comfortable. But the result of all my attempts is just to terrify him like I'm a monster. And in that wonderful scene that Andy somehow cut together so beautifully, where I finally acknowledge the young Jonathan, we do my close-up, and it's fine and good. And we turn around on the kid, and he would rather be anywhere. He feels like he's in the seventh circle of hell, and he's trying to crawl out. He's praying to God and Shiva and Kali and whoever else, and trying to get out of there. And we try everything. We get to the point where I'm like, give me that iPhone. And we play Peppa Pig, and the cartoon Peppa Pig. Maybe it's an English thing. Basically like this child cartoon, and I put it right there. I'm just like there, and then suddenly the kid is just like in love with me, seemingly, but in fact he's just in love with Peppa Pig.
So it was a fun set.
It was a fun set, actually. It was a really fun set, and I think that the joy that you see in the film, Jonathan creates that. He's really his father's son in that way. He creates joy wherever he goes. He creates community and family. He really inherited those qualities from his dad and his mum.
So, in terms of the facial expressions and you can't move, and it really is your face and your eyes and your voice. Was that all part of that 2 months you had to work with that? And again, it's similar to the question in terms of the breath and that, but it must be so strenuous to, you're not jumping from trains and James Bond, but it seems like it would be a very strenuous kind of role.
Yeah, it's interesting.
I don't want you to complain, but
no, I know. But my life is not hard. I mean, it was interesting more than strenuous, and it was all very organic. Mm-hmm. I think I was given the time in preparation and on set to really just live in the circumstances. So, you live. You try to convince yourself that you're paralyzed, and then what happens? And especially after Robin decides he's going to live, all of that life force that comes back to his body, it can't be expressed in the body because it's gone. So it goes to the place where it can be expressed, and I think Jonathan told me on those first few days of filming where my face started doing things that I didn't expect it was going to do, because Of course it was doing that. I went to Jonathan. I said, it feels like it's too much. I feel very active. I feel like this is everything, camera acting teachers tell you not to do. But I'm so longing to be clear about what I'm feeling and thinking to the person that I'm communicating with, that this is happening. And he basically said, this is exactly what happened with my father. And he has very, very specific memories where he would come home from university to visit, and it was as if Robin had figured out how to put eyes in the back of his head. Like his eyes were so alive, and his face was so alive that Jonathan just remembered seeing the corner of his face, as if it was this kind of moving landscape, this kind of gyrating, rolling hills, and so it was. It felt true to him. So I thought, well, let's just go with that then.
Yeah, alive, definitely. Shall we open it up for some questions?
Why not?
Okay, we have some mic runners, and let's. I believe we do. Yes, someone from over here.
This is just so beautiful, and it's such a pleasure to be so moved by your performance, and especially in this role, the stillness and the power in your stillness, but your other roles seem to come from such stillness. And Never Let Me Go, that moment where you howl out of the car toward the end of the movie, I've never been so moved ever by a movie from that, coming from that stillness, that rage that came out of you. I've never been so moved as that. Yeah.
Thank you. I don't want to. What do I need to say something to that? It's interesting. I saw there was a series of clips put together of my work that I saw recently, and that was a weird experience to see that. But there seemed to be some running theme that was through it that was about, and I don't know what it was about, but that scene was in there, and there's something about, I don't know what it is. Well, that scene is like, I feel like it's that character giving God one last chance and saying, tell me you're here because I'm here, and this is the proof that I'm here and that I'm human and that I'm deserving of being here, and if you don't respond, then fuck you finally. That why have you abandoned me thing. So I don't know. Jesus complex? Maybe I have a Jesus complex.
Oh my God.
I have to go figure out this Jesus complex. No, I don't know. But thank you for saying that. Wow, thank you.
Questions over here? All right. Yes, you who are turning around.
I'd like to say thank you for an elegant portrayal of end of life and choosing that. I thought you did a brilliant job of conveying the sentiments about choice. It's obviously too late to penalize the doctor who was involved. I don't know if he's still alive, but it just, I know that's kind of a strange thing to think about. I don't know what the laws were at that point, but I'm wondering if you could say something about that as a statement and as an issue.
Yeah, I think no, he's not around anymore, and he would have gotten in a lot of trouble if he was ever found out to have done that. Whether we agree with that or not is a personal decision. I thought it was a very humane thing to do, and a very loving thing to do, and a very courageous thing to do. And I hope that I would be able to do the same for a friend in a similar need. And if I felt that he was always of stable mind and knew what he was asking, knew what he was doing. Not a light decision, of course. But it's live and let live as far as I'm concerned. So John, if I wish Jonathan was here, because whenever this question comes up, he speaks so passionately from the gut about it, and it's his dad, and he is unequivocal in his support of what his father decided. What do you mean? He helped him pass away with a concoction of nice drugs that sent him to sleep.
Question over here.
Oh, first of all, I wanted to say how proud we are of you as a young actor speaking out against Harvey Weinstein, and that was so brave of you. And then, the concept of one person playing twins sounds vaguely familiar. Yes. Armie Hammer in The Social Network. Yeah. Then I was going to say, my father was born in 1930. He contracted polio when he was 23 and paralyzed from the legs down. So Cavendish was 28. He was born in 1930. So he was 5 years older than my father when he contracted polio. The Salk vaccine was developed in like 54. What was going on in England that they didn't have that available?
That's such a good question. So obviously Robin and Diana went to Kenya, and they got out to Kenya, and Robin and Diana were both supposed to go and get their shots. And Robin, on the day he was scheduled to get his shot, his boss said, "Oh no, I need you to do something over on the other side of the city," blah, 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 blah. And he was like, "Okay, well, I'll reschedule my shot for whatever." So neither him nor Diana got their shots. And in fact, Diana had got polio a couple of weeks previous and was bedridden for a few days, but it cleared out of her system. I mean, you know, I'm not a doctor. I don't know how these things work. But anyway, so if he would have gotten the vaccine if he hadn't have. Yeah, I know, it's interesting. But then you go, well, here we are. This is what it is, and this was his destiny. He was meant to. Maybe, I don't know. I like the idea that he was meant to be the warrior that because he was so extroverted and he was such a social person, and again that longing for life and that love of people, that love of life, that love of the world. I think that cause needed someone like him to push the boundaries and show people what was possible. So, I mean, you talk about divine plan. I don't know. I like to think about it in those terms. If wherever Robin is, he would be scoffing at this answer. He'd be like, "Tosh, poppycock, bullshit. I just got polio and it was awful, and then we made the best of it." You know, so he wasn't sentimental like I am.
No, but it's such an interesting thought, considering the effect that he had on so many thousands of people. I want to thank you again for this unbelievable role in this fantastic film. Could you tell us when it's going to be opening?
I think it's opening like now, like right now,
So
like a
it's
limited
something
release.
You could tell your friends
Tell
about
your
her.
pals. Get them. October 20th, just in my ear. I just got word. October 20th. Tell your pals. Thank you guys so much. Such a wonderful, warm, lovely group of people. Thank you. Really. Thank you. Thank you for having me.